All right.
All right, so we are live, everyone. So my name is Jesse, and I'm with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And of course, there are no classrooms right now. All of you are stuck at home, and so we so appreciate you continuing to join us as we highlight amazing scientists, educators, explorers, and facilities from around the globe. Today, we are continuing our epic SciComm Storytime series. So every day at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, we have been featuring some of the all-stars of science communication from across the globe. We have flown into hurricanes, put viruses into brains, we've done science experiments live on screen, all sorts of really, really cool stories. Today, we are joined live in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by Brittany Wickham. And she is going to tell us a little bit about how she ended up in the wide and wonderful world of informal and crazy science education. If you saw her picture that she used for her bio on our website, you'll understand a little bit of this madness. So I'm excited to see what we're going to learn about today. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, Brittany, and take us away.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for having me, and happy Earth Day, everybody. I am Brittany Wickham, and I'm an informal educator. Now, especially since I signed up for this, and today, my life has changed a lot, as I'm sure your lives have changed a lot too. Previously, I was working as a science interpreter at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, right on the Parkway near the Rocky Steps, if you know where that is. Unfortunately, I was part of the 36% of educators and staff members that were laid off. So now I am Be the Scientist, doing this live from my own house, unaffiliated, but still very much missing the Franklin Institute. And I'm going to share my screen with you. I have some really cool pictures and stories to share. And if you guys have any questions, I'd definitely be happy to take those. So, like I said, I am Be the Scientist. You can follow me at Be the Scientist, and my YouTube is bit.ly BTS YouTube. Let's see here. So I graduated from Temple University, and I had kind of an interesting adventure there. I started out in film somewhere else, ended up at Temple because I just missed working with kids so much. And this is a picture of me obviously doing something I cannot do at home. I wish I could bring those things home. That is during a live fireworks show or combustion show at the museum. And this is me now as I'm trying to go from my bachelorette pad studios. So what does a science interpreter do? A science interpreter does a lot of things. If you work in a nonprofit like I did, there's something called duties as assigned. And that means that they can have you do just about anything. So we would train volunteers. These are two of my very favorite volunteers, learning how to use the Zeiss telescope, one of two surviving left in the world. So we would learn how to talk about things in the museum. We would learn how to talk to people and how to train our volunteers. I would also make digital content, so just like I'm doing still. And man, isn't it funny that the moment I got onto our webpage, I got laid off a week later. But you know what? I'm still there. You can still check me out at fi.edu. These are two of my really good science interpreter friends as well during our Spark of Science series. Here I'm doing a dissection live, and this is one of our very awesome science festivals that we hold every year. Unfortunately, this year's was canceled. Hopefully it will come back again next year. So science interpreters do just about everything from moving tables to presenting content to making the content. Now that all changed when I got a head injury. During one of my explosive demonstrations, I got hit right in the side of the head. That was back in July. And personally, I think that made me extra prepared for the quarantine that I'm experiencing now. From July until about December or January, I lost a lot of my really awesome abilities. I was having trouble thinking through procedures, having trouble listing names that I knew, concepts that I knew. So I wasn't able to perform since July. I was home a lot. Any kind of motion would bother me. So people running by me, which happens a lot when you work at a kids museum. So there was a lot to adjust to. But now that I'm in my own house, I can control my own environment. I am feeling better than ever. And I've got a whole ton of science content that I've been sharing with the world and all of my family members. So let me go back into sharing my screen here. There we go. So what am I doing now? Like you, I'm at home. I am chatting with my family a lot, especially my sister's dog, Pepper. She's the star of most of our Zoom calls. My parents right here, they're tuning in somewhere as well. I'm doing private calls to different families and helping them walk through experiments. I've got a public story time at 2 p.m. Set for early elementary school kids and doing all kinds of experiments while doing so. So I saw this on a previous Explorer, Exploring by the Seat of Her Pants, just all the different kinds of things that show up on a resume. And most of those things have nothing to do with teaching or science. So these are just some of the buzzwords that showed up on my resume, which I thought was kind of interesting. And my actual map, okay, it's a long and winding road, as I would say, but I fell in love with television production in middle and high school. My mom actually worked in television when she was younger, so that spark started with her. And this is my best friend, Kara, who's now a TV producer working with Emily Calandrelli. So that's how I got connected with you guys. So I was an announcer in middle school and high school, and then I went on my way to Towson, Maryland to study electronic media and film. Little did I know that this would be the very first time that I wouldn't be working with kids. Previously, I had worked at a summer camp since I was a camper myself, and I, for the first time, wasn't working with kids when I was at school in the fall. I missed them so much. I really, really wanted to study education and figure out a way to put film back into it later. So I transferred back to Temple to Philadelphia. Now, I had a lot of struggles when I was there. School was really, really hard for me. It was hard for me when I was in elementary school and middle school, but it was really, really hard in college. I love science. I'm really curious about science, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to perform that well in my math classes. And my teachers would try really hard to help me, and just for some reason, I wasn't getting it. Now, they at the time did what I thought was a favor, and they were padding my grades and helping me pass because I was trying really hard and I was really well behaved. Well, it turns out that that didn't really help me because once I got to college, I had to take college algebra class and I could not get the grade that I needed. I took it 3 times, so now I'm an expert, and I even still have it kind of like a prized deer on the wall for a hunter. I conquered this book. I did every single activity in it, and now I am the queen of college algebra. So even though I wasn't that great at math, now I still find myself working in science. In high school, I was in the student government and was the president my junior year, and I really loved it. I was in the news and I was doing that government work. When my class sponsor told me that I probably shouldn't run for senior class president because there was a quarterback running against me. That did not sit well with me. I did not like that. So I campaigned very hard and I won senior class president as well. That class sponsor was also my chemistry teacher. And I heard years later that she still tells people, especially when my younger sister was in class, that I cried during a chemistry test, which was true. I was so ready. I thought I was so ready and I would get stressed out. And teachers like that just don't encourage kids or kind of make fun of them are the reason why I am doing what I'm doing today. No matter how you do in school on your report card, as long as you're trying and you're curious and you find a way, that's what really, really matters. So I'd like to thank all of my high school teachers, the good and the bad and the ugly, because they brought me to where I am today. So let's see, I'll go back into my timeline here. So my best position that I've ever held was called the Director of Fun and Games. This was at the summer camp in Bluebell that I worked at. I will never have a better title, I don't think. And here I got to run game shows. I planned events for anywhere between 800 and 1,000 kids from preschool to 9th grade. So it was a lot of a lot. This wasn't as much education, but while I was in college, then I started volunteering at the Franklin Institute, the science center that's in Philadelphia. I graduated, took that classic High School Musical picture, and then finally started working at the Franklin Institute full-time in 2015. So this is us making ice cream right here, by the way. And then, right when the pandemic hit, I decided that I wanted to do something for all of the kids in the world that were stuck inside. So I made science story time that I did outside of my work hours. And then 2 weeks later, I got laid off, which means I didn't have enough money to pay all of us. So now I'm doing science story time full time and also teaching a lot of kids at home. So some special skills that are required in order to become a science communicator, you need to be an excellent communicator. So if you're good at any games like catchphrase or taboo, this could be the job for you. You need to be able to listen really well, and you have to be able to speak pretty clearly. That's why when I got that head injury, I was pretty scared. I wasn't able to keep up with people as they were talking to me, and I would keep forgetting what I was talking about, more so than just your regular, airheadedness. You also, in the job that I was doing, I did a lot of writing, a lot of science writing and a lot of education writing. You need to be able to read things and then understand them really well to be able to teach them to kids like you. I also love STEM topics and even STEAM, putting the art into it. And notice I wrote enthusiasm, not excellence or good grades. You just have to be excited about science. You got to be a good public speaker, and you have to be open to learn every day. I learn something new every day that I work there. And also, you have to be okay with admitting when you don't know something, because kids will ask all the time questions that I don't know the answer to. And that's a really good answer. I don't know, but I can help you find the answer. So I learned a lot about a lot. Here, this is when I met Emily Calandrelli, my science superstar. Love that. She came to film something at the Franklin Institute. I learned all about archaeology and restoration when terracotta warriors came to the museum. I learned how to operate telescopes and point things out in the night sky with Dr. Derek Pitts. And this was during our awards. And one of my favorite behind the scenes is as I'm getting that really giant telescope ready, I'm looking up at the skyline because it was a cloudy day. And I found this window washer about 60 floors up in the Comcast building. He had no idea that we were watching him, but we were. And this image was actually reversed because in our telescope, there's mirrors in it. It's a refracting telescope. So that turns it around. So as I said, every day brings a new adventure. I was at the museum when the Pope came to Philly. We were in the middle of the Pope-pocalypse, as we like to call it. I took a visit to a bunch of high school principals and administrators, and I taught them how your brain works. I brought some sheep brains and dissected them. And those principals, they were grossed out, not as awesome as all the kids that I've taught were. This is another science festival moment. We made some piezo launchers and launched soda bottles. This is something that I only found today looking through my pictures. This was during a robot exhibit. These are robots playing soccer. So I got to call a robot soccer match, which was pretty cool. So I literally never knew what was going to be in those doors when I walked in. Some other really cool things that I was there for. There was training eye dogs that would come to the museum to practice. These dogs were very tired after a long day of training and not getting pet by people. We have sensory spaces for people who might need a little space to calm down. And this is me doing my due diligence of duties as assigned. I am deflating all of the balls. Again, this was part of my job. I was here when the NFL came to the Franklin Institute, so every team had a little desk here right next to Ben Franklin. I don't know what he would have thought about that. And this is the piezo launcher up close and personal. And then, of course, like I was saying, you cannot be shy. So this is me. I was kind of a carnival barker, a steampunk, if you will, at one of the science carnivals. We had the tech studio, so I learned a lot about 3D printing. I learned a lot about dinosaurs when Jurassic World came. You can see where I get my shyness from here. That's my dad. I think one of my favorite exhibits that came was the Pixar Exhibit. Lots of different movies were exemplified and showed how exactly they get animated. So I have all of these little random pockets of knowledge now that I can take advantage of. We had a Lost Egypt exhibit where I got to go on a fake camel. I have ridden on a real camel and it does not compare. They are very not balanced. So this is a lot easier. And then we had a lot of adult nights. So this was me being a flapper. We talked about the science of alcohol and other grown-up topics. When I very first started, I got sent out all up and down the East Coast to a summer camp called ESF. And if you can believe it, they rented me a Prius to pack a week's amount of science in. And I did it. It was like a big Tetris game, but I certainly did it. And crazy hat day, no one told me, so I had to make it myself. These are some of our summer campers at the Franklin Institute. They are really wild and fun. I'm really going to miss working with them. My friend Buddy, who's still at the museum, this is us up in the ceiling. We decided we wanted to test gravity, so we dropped stuff from the ceiling, including watermelon, big putty. We made an ice cream sundae just by dropping it on the floor, tons of rubber balls. So we really got the autonomy or the freedom to kind of do whatever we wanted. And of course, here's a close-up of those brains. We've got a little more of a brainstem here. I got to go to Wizard World Comic-Con, which was definitely out of my comfort zone. I learned a lot and I got to hold a tarantula. I learned all about the science of seances. So when Harry Houdini was a magician, he would try to prove that these seance women were kind of just using tricks. So I learned all these tricks myself and I hooked myself up and I had strings and shoes that would tap on the floor when people could see that mine were still and all kinds of things. That was really fun. And again, night skies, there's that big Zeiss telescope. So some of the challenges that the job has, it's rain or shine. Pretty much if there's a day off of school, those are the busiest days at a museum. That's when everyone's looking for something to do, so everyone comes to the museum. This was just milliseconds before my very first liquid nitrogen burn. I did a show about states of matter, and I'm about to kneel down right on a tiny bead, and I still have a little battle scar to prove it. We are very, very safe, or we try to be, but sometimes you can't avoid little things like that. This face shield, I wish I still had. That would come in handy right now, but we would use this face shield whenever we were pulling dangerous gases like hydrogen in order to blow them up. The work hazards are real. I got concussed from an experiment that I was doing. You have to be able to lift a lot of things because I was lugging my tables around and everything else. This was my very first set of work boots that wore down within a month from doing 12K or more steps a day. And rain or snow, one of our weirder jobs is we actually collected weather. We were the weather data collection center for Philadelphia, us along with the airport. And so we had to go on the roof if it precipitated at all, measure that. And there was a little whiteboard that we would measure with. So if you see here, the whiteboard is right here, no snow on it, but lots of snow everywhere else. So we had to come up with ways to average that out and figure out how much snow or rain was out on the roof. I think the thing that I'm going to miss the most about this job is all the wonderful people I got to work with and all the cool costumes I got to wear. I still have a lot of them here at my house, but this is my friend Fox. He's still there. Excuse me, he made the cheapest spacesuit show that I got to try out, where we took apart the NASA spacesuit and tried to recreate it ourselves. I've got my own little light up skirt here at home with constellations. We actually do get dressed up nice and fancy sometimes, but most of the time we look like this. We had a wizarding school event. I got to teach about lasers and light during the eclipse. And of course, I just want to shout out my two cousins, Dean and Jude. They are young and in Pittsburgh, and they love trying all of my experiments that I've got whenever they come over. So these guys are definitely my inspiration. You always need some guinea pigs whenever you're doing science. And that's the long story short of my story. You can follow me on Be the Scientist, BTS YouTube on Bitly, or you can email me right there. So I'm going to take my screen share off.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for such a cool presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I don't think you skipped a beat that whole time or took a second to breathe. If you want a few minutes to just get back in the groove. We have some live teachers joining from California, across Ontario. We've got a teacher or a group in Wisconsin, New Jersey, and more. So I'm really looking forward to taking some live questions from you guys. I also want to note for all our people tuning in on YouTube, just type in questions in the chat bar and we will share as many as we can with Brittany. Before I come to our live groups, I want to start off with a question we get every single time. So I've got to share with you, Brittany, what is your favorite part of your job?
Okay, so my favorite part of my job now, all of the Be the Scientist work that I'm doing, I would have to say is connecting with all the kids at home. So doing exactly what I'm doing right now. I've never not worked with kids besides for that one semester in college. So kids have been sending me drawings and pictures of them trying my experiments, doing Emily Calandrelli's experiments, and that is just the pinnacle of my job. Also, reading fun kids books and pop-up books too.
Fantastic. We'll have to come back in a little bit and ask what your favorite kids books are, so we make sure we get that question in.
Absolutely.
But I want to go to Mr. Shelton first, joining us for the very first time. So Mr. Shelton, if your kids have any questions, or if you have a question you'd like to share with Brittany, you are unmuted, I think, or wants to unmute you, but there you go. Go for it.
Hi, I was wondering if you've ever considered being a classroom teacher. With your energy and experience with children and knowledge about science, I think you'd make a wonderful teacher in the classroom. Have you ever considered it?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of skipped right through that part of my life. I did elementary ed, studied that in college. I was a preschool teacher and worked in a first grade classroom. I loved it. I loved every second of it, but I was getting a little frustrated, as many teachers can probably understand, with administration, with standardized testing, curriculum mandates, things like that. And I just felt like I had a little too much energy for one small classroom. So I do think that maybe classroom teaching could be in my future. I'm definitely getting a lot closer to those roots right now.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, Miss Peck's group joining us in Crediton, Ontario. Hi, Miss Peck. And yeah, it's not letting me demute anyone's microphones today, so we'll all need to demute our own microphones, unfortunately. But Miss Peck, if you want to ask a question, go for it.
Hi, Brittany. It was so neat to see all of the different science experiments and areas that you've been involved in. And I was just wondering, as I watched all of that, if there's a particular area or topic that you specialize in or that you have more expertise with?
That's a good question. So something about working in a nonprofit, like I said, is wearing many hats. Going in, I think I knew the most about, I'm going to say I knew most about general science. When you're an elementary school teacher, they teach you a little bit about general environment, general outer space. But I think I learned the most about outer space, and I love that topic the most. So astronomy, planets, our sun especially, but I think also the scientific method incorporated in every single topic.
Fantastic. Astronomy seems to be something that unites a lot of our speakers. When you're into general science, it's something that is taught really well, either in the classroom and informally. There's a lot of resources for it. So it seems to be a common one. So if you're keen on space, anyone at home, you can check out all sorts of great stuff online and in books. Brielle, I just want to note for you, if you want a question, just raise your hand. I am going to come to Linda for a second, joining us in Ocean City, New Jersey. Linda, if you or your grandkids have a question, go for it.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Brittany, for coming. We live near Philadelphia, and we've been to the Franklin Institute many times with our children and our grandchildren, and have always really enjoyed it. I was wondering if you could share with us today, a simple scientific experiment that we could use household supplies at home with, that you would recommend to share with early elementary children.
Fantastic.
Linda, I couldn't have paid you more to give me my segue. I brought some experiments with me, all within an arm's reach here. And I've got two. I was going to show you one, but I'll show you a second one as well. So the first one that you can do that's super easy involves a balloon and a coin. Now, I couldn't find a coin within arm's reach, so inside of my balloon is actually a bead. That works too. Now, you can show centripetal force, or the way that like, sorry, I'm having a brain buffering moment. Orbits, showing how orbits work by just simply spinning this in a circle. And then, let's see if we can you hear that?
Yeah.
So as soon as you stop moving the balloon, it's going to keep going in a circle until eventually it loses momentum and it drops to the bottom. So this is kind of a musical instrument. It's a science experiment. It's a lot of really fun things. If you put a nut in it, it's very, very noisy. So that's one that I really like.
Cool.
But I definitely recommend one of my favorite books for learning different experiments. Steve Spangler also has a website, and I got to film with him before I left the Franklin Institute. So you can check out his website for a lot of good DIY experiments. And I have, Jesse, the other one. I don't know if we wanted to end with my rockets or if I should do that now.
We'll end with rockets. That sounds like a perfect ending.
Okay,
just
cool.
a quick note for some people at home too. So Emily Calandrelli, who Brittany's referenced a few times, has done a YouTube channel with a whole bunch of experiments you can do at home over the last month or so. So check out her YouTube channel. Some really great stuff there. A really easy one for a similar conservation of momentum. Take an egg, spin it on a table, put your finger on it to stop it for just a quarter second and let it go, and the egg will keep spinning because all the fluid inside has kept spinning the whole time. So it's kind of fun. All right. Okay, a student in Queen Street Public School, Brampton, Ontario wants to know, do you have a favorite experience? You just shared an easy one. Is there something that you really love?
Yes, I'll tell you that I really love this and I'm really gonna miss it. I miss experimenting with fire. And that I can't do as much here. But we got to teach about fireworks and combustion and use metal salts that are found in fireworks to color the flames. And so I got to learn a lot about fireworks. In fact, there's the biggest firework factory in the country is up in Erie. So I've always wanted to visit that. Maybe after we get unlocked down, I can go explore that. So I think probably the color salt sprays I'll miss doing. And also the almost regular hydrogen balloon explosions that we would do at the Institute is going to definitely be missed. And all of those can be found on the Franklin Institute's website.
Super cool. I have a question about bees. Why bees? What's the deal? Do you love bees?
So, yes, I love bees. I think they're hard workers, but growing up, I was always Brittany B, and now shortened to just B. And so when I was classroom teaching, I was Miss B for a little bit, and B just seemed to catch on. So I don't know, admittedly, so much about the topic of bees, although I do have a few friends that are beekeepers, so I'm hoping to learn that soon. It just kind of accidentally became my aesthetic.
Fantastic, very cool. All right, we're gonna take a couple more questions, and then what we'll do is do that rocket fun stuff. So
Okay,
Mr.
cool.
Shelton, I don't know if you have another question or from your students, but if you demute your mic, come on up. Go for it.
No more questions at this time. We're just absorbing all that energy.
Cool. Awesome. Ms. Peck? Anything from you? Let's check in. Sorry for the
Yeah, I was thinking about the college algebra course, Brittany, that you were telling us about and that you really struggled with. Our class spent a lot of time talking about how we learn from struggle. And I was just wondering if you have some tips for students who are maybe struggling with some learning at home and maybe they have to do some independent study. Do you have any ideas for that?
Absolutely. So when I was in that college algebra class, the frustrating thing is that I needed a grade of, I think, like 75% in order to get into that candidacy program. So I was passing the class each time, but not with a high enough grade. So what I ended up doing, I think it was either the second or third time, is I went to tutors. And I was doing this math nonstop. I hated every second of it. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't like it. But I hate to say it, your grown-ups are right. The more you do these problems, the more you mess up, the better you're going to get. And those mess ups and failures are just going to it teaches you muscle memory. So all of those extra problems that no one ever does in the back of the book, mine's all written up and marked up. I've done almost every single problem in that textbook. Now I haven't done it recently, but I would say to just do as much as you can, even when you're not doing it well. The more you do it, the better you're going to get.
Fantastic. All right, Brittany, before we wrap up with this awesome rocket you promised me, you have a science book there. You showed us another book. Are there resources that you recommend for kids at home to check out where they can learn more fun experiments, or just in general, some of your favorite science books or resources?
Absolutely. So definitely check out Emily Calandrelli's page, The Space Gal. She's got some fun experiments. My friend Steve Spangler, for young kids, so pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. This is one of my favorite books right now, which is Big Science, Little People. This one is more exploration based, so playing with water, discovering properties. In terms of books about museums, I've got a lot of books of a lot of topics. This one is How the Meteorite Got to the Museum. This one's on my YouTube page, so you can check out that story. This is a true story of how a meteorite got to one of the museums in New York City. So that's really cool. And then my favorite for all ages, including me, is this awesome periodic table Lift the Flat book. And it looks pretty simple, but inside of it, we are toured around by Isaac Mendeleev, who is the one who made the periodic table. And he's a little cartoon character here. And he shows us what all of these elements are and where we can find them in our world. So I love that. And then one more that I have right next to me. This is another person on Instagram that I found, Rachel Ignovsky, Women in Science.
It's an amazing book for everyone at home.
Yes. Yeah, it's really good. She also has a website with coloring pages with extra sources and activities. So definitely check that out. So yeah, those are some, just a fraction of my really big library of kids books, as well as the online resource that I just discovered called Internet Archive Open Library. The Boston Library has done the bulk of the work, but there's a lot of libraries around the world that have been scanning library books so you can access them online. I've been finding a lot of books to read through that website that I don't physically have in person.
That is the most detailed answer of anyone we've asked that to all month long. So thank you, Brittany, for such amazing resources.
You're welcome.
And without further ado, I mean, if we want to share some rockets, go to space together, let's do that. I'm so excited.
Okay, cool. So this one, I'm just gonna push this back a little bit so that you can see. Okay, so I've got a few things for this experiment. Now, maybe only our grown-ups will know what this one is. Does anyone know what these are used for? Jesse, do you know what this is?
Not a clue. I mean, it's like a pillbox sort of thing, but.
So this is a film canister.
Oh.
And yeah, I know that you were around for them. I see Linda's laughing over there. So these, along with really any push top container, you can do this experiment with. So a Pringles can, any medicine bottle that doesn't have a lock on it, you can do this experiment with. So obviously we've got our safety goggles on. We're going to need some Alka-Seltzer. And Alka-Seltzer is used as like something to soothe your stomach or to like, I don't know, clean dentures or something. And they're just little tablets and they fizz up when they are put inside of water. So we're going to use the idea of action and reaction in order to set off these film canisters like rockets. So I've got a container of warm water. And when you're at home trying this yourself, try it with warm water, try it with cold water, see what happens. So I like to add the water first, and I'm going to set up 3 of them at once. because, and as I've listened to a few of the other Explore by the Seat of Your Pants stars, anytime there's a rocket launch, it usually doesn't happen on time or it's delayed. And that happens in person as well. So I'm going to fill up each canister about a third of the way with water. Okay, now I'm going to use about a half of an Alka-Seltzer in each one. I'm going to shake it up, put the top on, and then flip it upside down. Now at home, I want you to make your bets on which one is going to explode first. We've got 1, 2, and 3, okay? Now for safety, I put saran wrap over my laptop because this will get a little bit messy. So I'm gonna try to do this pretty quickly. And usually you can use like a third to a half of a tablet in each one. So let me make sure it's ready and then we'll see which one explodes first. Okay, here we go. So hold up on your fingers which one you think is going to go first. We've got 1 loaded, 2 loaded, 3. Okay, and now this is the part that's the hardest. We just have to sit back and wait. Let's see what everyone's vote is. None of them look like they're leaking. Oh! Number 2 was the first one to get shot off. Let's see. I think number 1 might have a leak.
Saran wrap was a very good idea.
I've done this a few times. Let's see. So currently there's gas bubbles that are building up inside of the rockets and they're pushing the top off. But because the top's on the bottom, it's pushing the whole rocket up. So this is a little bit of how rocket boosters might work. And, you know, I've learned the hard way that when you think it's not going to go off and you put your head over it, that's when it goes off. So I'm going to just let these sit here. They may or may not explode, but if you guessed 2, you were absolutely correct. Let's see
Gold
if I can.
star, 2 voters. Yeah, poke it. Poke the rocket. That's the good idea.
I think this one might.
That's funny.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the seal broke a little bit. So number 2 was a good one.
Number 2 is the winner. Well, Brittany, that is our first ever rocket demonstration in the history of exploring.
Yay!
So we really appreciate you joining us. Those are some great resources you highlighted too. Oh, 3. Jeez. See? It's mass chaos. This is a riot. Okay. Well, what we do at the end of every session, Brittany, is I'm going to demute everyone's microphones, or if they could demute their own, and say a huge thank you to you as you're hopefully not being hit in the face with a rocket. So Miss Peck, Mr. Shelton, Linda, Brielle, if you guys want to demute your mic and join me and say a huge thank you to Brittany, you should be all good to go.
Thank you
so
for
much.
it was fun.
Thank you so much.
It was great.
Thanks, guys.
Can't wait to do the rocket experiment with my class.
Awesome. Yes, we've inspired dozens. I love it. For everyone tuning in at home, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we're continuing SciComm Storytime every day, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Brittany, that was fantastic. Thanks so much. No
Thank
Planet
you.
Meat. Earth Day, everyone, too. Keep that in mind. Awesome. Talk to you all soon, everyone.